Hello and welcome to UC Today. My name is Christopher Carey and today's conversation will look at the customer journey black hole. I'm joined by Gaurav Anand, VP and Head of Customer Interaction Suite at Tata Communications. Gaurav, great to have you with us today. We often hear about the customer journey black hole. Can you paint a picture of what this looks like in real life and why is it such a major challenge for enterprises today?
Yeah, hi. Thanks, Chris, for having me. First of all, I appreciate you taking the time and giving us the opportunity to talk about a very important topic here. So, customer journey black hole. I think before we start answering what the black hole is, we've got to maybe talk about what the customer journey is all about. And I think in today's day and age where everything's gone digital, people want everything at their fingertips, 24/7. Everything is always on, and you're constantly sort of learning. The brands are starting to understand that they need to be a lot more personalized, and then they need to be a lot more contextual in the interactions that they have with their customers. But the actual experience is actually quite the opposite. So what technically starts to happen is that where the brands are starting to touch the customers, all the different touch points as they call it, and the channels that they're using to go touch them are very siloed, and the experience as a result of which the customers have are very disjointed and very fragmented rather, right? So as an example, if you get hop on a website and you realize, hey, okay, I'm looking for a car loan. You go look up into your bank and you figure out, yeah, there's some specials going on. You fill out the form, you get some sort of a notification. Great, you call the bank and you say, hey, listen, I'm calling about this application I filled out online, and here's my confirmation number. And the bank, agent's like, what are you talking about? And then they have to start the whole process all over again. And, there are so many different ways in examples that you start talking to people about how the calls get transferred if you call in for customer service, and people just are afraid. I think somebody said that, I don't know what large percentages of people would rather clean their toilets than call a customer service agent because the experience is so painful. And so the black hole concept really comes from the fact that, your data that you're providing to the customer, whether it's for an inquiry, whether it's for getting some additional information on a particular product that you're interested in, or a complaint that you want to raise, is going in one channel and then getting lost, right? And that's the black hole side of it.
Mm. And what typically causes these black holes? Are they the result of technology gaps or organizational silos or customer expectations evolving faster than systems can keep up?
Yeah, it's a beautiful question because there are so many, different aspects to, if you start to think about and break this journey down, right? So if you think about the journey, as you started to talk about it in the previous conversation, right? It starts from when the customer, from a marketing standpoint, as an example, you're trying to create awareness, right? And you're about your brands and your products and your offerings, and then engaging your customers, and then knowing, what is it the customer wants, and then going through that journey on through the whole acquisition process, and then the fulfillment, and then the life cycle, and customer support, and so on and so forth. So there are various things that happen in this entire process from any of those parts of the journey that we just laid out, right? One of which is the touch points that we talked about, like where are the customers? The customers are talking to different people, so they got that social channel, social media that's kind of impacting them. They're being being bombarded by marketing messages, and they're landing at some point in probably not the right channel, but there are these different touch points. Let's just say is the one side of it, if you would. The other side of it is what I was just talking about: what channel you send them those messages on, right? And then are we? So there may be and literally there's a wide variation in the way customers behave in the generational sort of segment that they fall in. Like Gen Zs are probably not really going to want to pick up the phone and talk to you, but the boomers are really not quite going to do anything other than, talk to somebody on the phone, right? So if you're bombarding the boomers with, text messages, and that channel is not going to work, right? And conversely, so the other way around isn't going to work either. So really, it's the right channel at the right time. So there's the the touch point and where do you kind of get the right message to the right customers, and then two is what channel do you use to get there, and then in once you've established that, then the question becomes is like, how do you actually make that happen, right? Because then you go inside the enterprise and then the corporation, and you start to figure out, hey, there are data silos. There's marketing data that's sitting in one place. There's product data that's sitting in one place. There's billing data. There's customer attributes that are sitting on one place. There's billing data sitting in another, and all of these data are so siloed that people are not able to understand. There are different vendors for different things. So there may be, if you're talking to a channel, we talked about, maybe going through, an SMS or a WhatsApp message or maybe a phone call. There's different, vendors. So there's a vendor ecosystem that is sort of disconnected. There's the internal data silos that exist, and then operationally not being able to kind of synthesize and unify that data. And then because everything is so kind of in its own island, there are technology gaps that exist that, even if you try to start to use AI, you kind of run into roadblocks, and then you kind of put these patchy AI solutions, that kind of work in some places but they don't in another. And then, as an example, there's a study that I think McKinsey did, where the biggest problem that they said in AI was when in the handoffs between like an autonomous agent or to a human agent.
And Tata Communications talks about integrating CPaaS and CCaaS into a single unified CX platform. How
Yeah.
exactly does that integration close the visibility gaps across the customer journey?
Yeah, so look, we were amongst sort of the players that kind of sit in the middle, and we were looking at the two sides, right? There's brands are trying to kind of grapple with all of these issues that I talked about, and then the customers are starting to figure out, hey, why am I not getting the type of service that I'm expecting? Because there are pockets of excellence everywhere, right? So there's some um, unicorn that's kind of cracked the code, and then everybody sort of holds the rest of the industry to that standard. And we know how difficult it is to sort of bring all of this together. So I think one of the ways in which this unification, if you would, or simplification that can happen on the back end is probably tied to maybe two or three things, right? One is like the switch to platforms, right? And then we talk as Tata Communications a lot about, fabrics, digital fabric, because we think that everything and everybody, and when I say thing, I mean the, machines and endpoints, the IoT devices, etc. And then humans and the interaction between humans and things and machines is all sort of driven by, you know, this need for hyper connectivity, that what I started by saying, there's always on. I want the information that's seamlessly sort of collaborative. It's always learning. And the only way, in our opinion, that this can happen is what we call, a fabric creation, right? Or using platforms. So essentially, a platform that we've created is Clare.AI, as an example, is our customer interaction platform. And we using the platform, we're trying to bring an omni-channel experience. So that channel information that I talked about earlier, we're able to orchestrate between the channels, right? And we can guide the customers and the brands to use the right channel for the right customer type, and they can orchestrate between those. And I think when we have platforms for sort of unifying the data, so the CDPs, and they're composable, and we're connecting in the back end with the different databases that exist within the company's ecosystem to all sort of feed into this CDP. We're starting to use agentic and Gen AI capabilities to sort of bring these multiple platforms together. And that's kind of like how we call, the interaction fabric, really, right? When the platforms start talking to each other.
So, in practice, what does a seamless handoff between channels look like? For example, when a chatbot escalates to a live agent.
Yeah, so I think today, as I mentioned earlier, right, the report from this company, I think Nextiva CX report, it talks about how 90% of the CX decision makers using AI struggle with this smooth AI to human handoff, right? Um, so I don't think it's just about deploying the AI. I think it's about the intelligence that goes behind it and how well the agent is actually trained, and what use cases you're trying to solve. Um, so I think a couple of things. One, on the front end, like we were talking about, the voice AI capabilities that a company needs to build out, need to ensure that the context is maintained. When that handoff happens, it's all of the information is sort of gathered, that's around the intent, that's around the sentiment, is passed on seamlessly. And I think what's important there is the kind of the information that is you know important for the human agent to know, and then for that agentic support to sort of continue in the live agent environment as well. So a lot of times it's like there's all this voice AI stuff in the front. We pass it on, and you're back to that agent who has 8 different applications open, and everything kind of comes to a grinding stall. So the overall, you've inserted AI into the picture, but you're actually given the customer a worse experience because the voice AI agent up front was not able to solve it, and that's why they wanted the human agent. And the human agent doesn't have the sort of the assistance from the AI capabilities. Then you're kind of a net negative. So what's important is for the handoff obviously to be such that the context is transferred, but also for that agentic support to continue in that live human conversation as well. So it has to have an end-to-end agentic support, not just in parts and parcels of it.
And once the black hole is illuminated, how can organizations go beyond visibility to actually extract actionable insights from the full customer journey?
Yeah, so I think that's a really good question, because McKinsey came out with a study, and they said that companies that adopt a 360 customer view, which is where we're talking about, kind of having a view of the entire, journey perspective from a customer, they see almost as much as a 25% increase in their customer satisfaction, and that's directly an outcome of the insight-led engagement. So I think once the black hole is lifted, you have more visibility, to the data. I think that's one of the first points. Second, you have more visibility on the touch points we talked about, right? 3, then we start channels. So what channels we use, how do we get more proactive? How do we get more relevant? How do we make it more contextual, right? How do we make this whole experience more frictionless for the customer? And how do we then start to look at analytics, right? And then start to not just be proactive with our outreach, but be predictive with our outreach, right? And personalize, of course. I always talk about these 3 Ps, right? You need to be personalized, you need to be proactive, but now you need to be predictive as well. And just kind of what the element that sort of comes from kind of deploying AI and machine learning models that just go beyond just looking at the reports, or looking at, a lot of times at the end of the call, like back in the day with the contact center, and even now, there's a quality assurance sort of type of a survey that's done where you look through these 10 things that needed to be answered. Did the agent answer? Were they polite? Did they resolve them first time? Did they resolve a certain amount of time, and so on and so forth? And it's very sort of cumbersome, and having to go back and like actually read through or listen through the recording and so on and so forth. Now that with the help of AI can get expedited, like all of that work and the analysis, not only can that be done faster, there can be more of it. Originally, I think we do like 2 or 3 or 5% of the call recordings are kind of on a sample basis done to kind of assess, can there be some learnings and whatnot. with AI now that can be done a lot faster. So the insights that come from that, and then the the insights are not just then about, how are we doing in terms of keeping the customers happy? Are we meeting their requests? Are we, making it frictionless for them? But it also comes down to training, right? And making sure that, the agents are that much more efficient. And then it could also then come down to, hey, it looks like the agents are doing fine. The customers are still not happy. It could be our systems. It could be our knowledge bases. They say, hey, maybe we need to improve some of the information, some policies that we have internally. Maybe things are getting stuck because there are internal, kind of gaps. So, or internal, obstacles. It slows access to data down. It could be, security related issues, or overly, sort of cumbersome, steps that someone needs to take, et cetera, et cetera. So, bottom line is, with having removed this black hole, because your systems are now talking to each other, your customers are now getting more proactive information, they're getting more contextual information. You have AI in the middle, sort of orchestrating all of this, and you're then just allowing your brands to then essentially drive better decisions, faster responses, more human-centered experiences. And in all of the stuff that we talked about, at some point there's a study that said, customers actually pay up to as much as 18% more for a good customer experience, right? So there's real value by removing that black hole.
And looking ahead, what's the next frontier for unified CX platforms? Like, what's going to separate the leaders from the laggards in closing the customer journey black hole?
Yeah, so good question. I think in terms of looking forward, I think the trends that I see is, look, there's omni-channel is non-negotiable, right? I think, and we already talked about that. We need to be able to orchestrate between those, and pick the right channel at the right time, right? I think that's number one. Two, I think there's the shift to the journey orchestration, right? So having the ability to kind of use unified data, CDPs that are sort of connected in the back end, and trying to make it be seamless for the customer, frictionless for the customer, making it personalized and contextual at every stage of the journey is extremely important. I think also AI, right, for scale and intelligent AI, I should say, like it's important that it's used effectively and it's used smartly, and I think the unified sort of reporting and having a kind of a consistent view across the different platforms, across the entire fabric, if you would. I think the insights that come from it and using those insights effectively. And then I think last but not least, I feel like there is definitely the coexistence of AI and human agents, and then how do you orchestrate between those and the handoffs between them, and then like using AI to effectively be accretive in terms of efficiencies, is what I think is the way to go.
Thanks for the discussion today, Gaurav. I think it's all we time for, unfortunately, but it's been a really good session. If people want to find out more about this topic, what's the best way to get in touch?
Well, the best way to get in touch is to go to our website, tatacommunications.com. You'll find, among other fabrics, the interaction fabric. Clare.AI is the brand that we use for that. And of course, you can always reach me. I'm on LinkedIn, and you can reach out to our marketing department as well. They're all over LinkedIn. So I think the website is the best place to start.
So if you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and a share on social media, and we'll see you next time. I've been Christopher Carey for UC Today. Thanks for watching.